Economic performance.
by Nate Dykes and Brady Fox. Gross domestic product. This graph shows a 300% growth since 1987, which is fantastic. But we had the first drop in more than 50 years in the late 2000s. This is not a huge concern, however, for the future because we've had strong growth since then. GDP, or gross domestic product, totals exports from one nation in 1 year. This is important to our economy because we need to have exports to produce jobs, national income, and to increase taxes to support our government. 15 trillion is a good number, although we import much more than that. A critical factor of GDP is to have growth to provide more jobs and money for an ever-growing population. Ours is currently doing that.
Aggregate demand and aggregate supply. Aggregate demand is the total demand for the GDP of our nation. This is important because a large demand leads to high prices and more income. Low demand often leads to unsold products and low prices, which lowers income. A low income will lead to less jobs and GDP in the future years, hurting our economy. Aggregate supply is the supply for real GDP at a given price level. This is an important indicator because it shows how much we produce. When the economy performs well, aggregate supply will be high and vice versa. This is a graph showing the relationship between aggregate demand and aggregate supply. The equilibrium represented between the two curves represents the macroeconomic equilibrium.
Consumer Price Index. The graph shows percent increase, and in the last year, CPI increased by 2%. This is okay if jobs and salary grow as well, but if they slow, this increase could be devastating. Consumer Price Index measures the average cost of goods without food and energy because they are so volatile. A 0.2 increase last month alone is a worry because rising prices can drastically hinder the economy.
Unemployment. Our current unemployment of 8.3% is high, which hinders our economy, but it has been trending downward, which provides confidence for investors and employers, which helps the economy. Unemployment is a critical indicator for our economy because a high unemployment rate means less consumers and less sales, which limits our economy. Currently, our economy has been improving, as we can tell from a rising GDP, fairly steady CPI, and a dropping unemployment. I think this will continue as steady increases build confidence of firms and investors.
However, I would be cautious with the move to the U.S. as everyone has the recession of 2009 still fresh in their minds, and any stop in growth in the economy could collapse. Generally, a move here would be okay, but it must be with caution.
Sources.